You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate your time and effort for doing so. Well, we've come into another week, another episode of Wild Down and in the Books. And along with that, there's several tidbits of news that's been floating around the wrestling sphere, including memoirs being released, movies being released, talent being released. Although I won't go off into talent being released. I think we've seen a little bit of that over the last couple of weeks. That's not going to be a major issue of me talking right now. But the other things, the movie, the memoir, some of the talents that's out there on the independents and so on and so forth. Of course, we have to talk about those things. And then after all is said and done, we get back off into a good old edition of WOW. And what did they do this week? How did it come off? Was it entertaining? Was it not? All of those answers, all those questions to be answered in just a little while. And so, as we tend to do, before we roll off into the actual review of the program, let us take a quick run by the news, views, and updates. And what is going on out there? One of the things is, well, we know that the Beast on camera left WOW because she was just so heartbroken. Some half-assed answer about, well, you know, I tried my best to do this, that, and the other, but it's, you know, people getting ahead by cheating. I don't know. I don't remember her full statement. But we know that she quit. Wink, wink. And then some of that started to, a big light started to be shined on the situation as we saw her participate in the Beast Games. No relation to her, by the way. She appears on the Beast Games and she does pretty well. And wouldn't you know it, she is on a reunion show for the Beast Games right now. I just found that out a few hours before starting this particular recording. And amazingly enough, when I caught it, it had just uploaded. I caught it 5 hours after this upload, and 45,000 views have already taken place watching this thing. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. Again, it's like one of the reality TV reunion shows. People, participants show back up, and they start talking about their experiences there. Mr. Beast is not hosting. This is not his channel, apparently. But he is there also. And I want to give credit to the channel and the person. And I apologize, sir, if I'm mispronouncing your name. It is John Uche. I think that's how he pronounces that. But if you are looking for it, look for Beast Game finalists confront Mr. Beast. Beast Games finalist confront Mr. Beast. Now, the little bit that I saw didn't feel like a confrontation. It just, more or less felt like, all right, we're going to sit here and talk about what did you do? Why did you do this? Why did you turn down the money? Blah, 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 blah. But I bring that up to say because she's there. She is, again, fairly prominently featured. If you listen to her talk, like if you just heard an audio clip of her on that show opposed to what you might have seen her on WoW, doesn't even sound like the same person. It really highlights the fact that the Beast, the wrestler, is very much a persona generated for WoW's programming. Here, she sounded just like a normal young lady and what have you. But it did bring up an interesting question in my mind, whether the Beast should go back to WoW or not. I do remember asking or having a similar question some weeks ago with someone. We'll leave that anonymous. And that individual pretty much felt like, well, the management would probably want her back regardless. And I can see that. If I'm going to be fair, I can see that. I've often said that WoW doesn't have any stars, but the closest thing that they had to creating one would have been the Beast. But whatever star power that she had from WoW, if that, because I honestly don't think that she got much star power for that, but if whatever star power that she might have created from that particular show, and that's going to pale in comparison, in my opinion, to what she's getting off of this now. She's probably been seen or had her face viewed by more people in the last couple of months than the last few years that she did in a while. And that's, what can I say? It's Mr. Beast. And I hadn't realized how big of a deal he was until, my coworkers, my son, people like that had brought it up. Now, that was several years ago when I was told about it, but the fact of the matter is that he's a big deal. He gets a lot of attention. Was it the most viewed reality or / game show in history just by him being on Amazon Prime? So I say all of that to say this, is that to bring her back to WoW at this point, I would feel that she would have to be featured very heavily and prominently in order to take advantage of it. And I'm not sure if that's something that WoW either knows how or would want to do. I mean, the litmus test for that already exists. They had a major star on that show already, and they chose not to do anything with it. And I use the term chose because it's like I cannot imagine that they had no options in front of them while AJ Mendez was on that show. I cannot imagine. Now I can certainly see if she was like, no, I'm not getting into a wrestling ring. I'm not going to do it no matter what. I can certainly see that. But I find it extremely hard to believe that while she was there, that she wouldn't have been willing or able to sit down in front of a camera and talk about her life and career and whatever. Something that the show could take advantage of. And I mean a real sit-down conversation, not one of these overly produced 30-second hoo-has that WoW likes to do, just to amuse themselves. But yeah, and look, that's why I said the litmus test is there. So I don't know if Beast returning to that program would do her any good. It might not even do WoW any good, quite honestly, because I don't think they would capitalize on it. But I would say this in relation to, the hypothetical situation of should she or should she not. If she did, it would be a case of, hey, look, you got to pay me this amount of money. Now, that's not to be mean, but arguably you're bringing me back in at this point to get more viewers. And if that is the case, if I affect ratings or viewership by any metric, I should be paid for that. Because I'm sure some people would follow her over there just because she's there. And they've seen her on this other thing. So she probably has gotten some fans just off of that. Would they follow her? Who knows? But it wouldn't hurt for her to ask if she was like, hey, look, you want me to come back? Because, I need a raise. And again, it does not have to be mean or to have to be, mean spirited or anything like that. It's just, this is what I'm asking for if you want me to return. But on the other side of that coin, yes, we have wrestlers who have wrestled into their late 40s and early 50s and what have you. And I'm not going to go into her particular age because she's still looks great. She's in phenomenal shape, beautiful woman, but still, there ain't a lot of time. The clock's ticking if they get her back in there. That's what it comes down to. The clock is ticking if she were to come back. So I don't know if that's something that they would want. Actually, I would say certain management probably wouldn't care because, WoW exists in its own rules and what have you. But under normal wrestling circumstances, the clock would be ticking. And I don't know if I would have her as a regular thing. At this point, if it were me and I had to find some level of compromise to get her back, find a number that meets in the middle, feature her prominently, not necessarily as the champion. That would be my open advice if I were going to do that. But I honestly don't know if she would, because apparently, as I was doing my research for this episode, apparently she has a movie that's getting ready to begin. I don't know if they've already started, but according to Variety, now, and keep in mind this was reported last month. This was reported in February 18th, that Mike Ferguson and Tawana Barnett, aka The Beast, set to lead Last Hit for Radsin. I'm assuming Radsin is a production company, but they have it listed as such. This is what is written on the Variety page. I'm sure you can look this up if you choose to. Actors Mike Ferguson and Tawana Barnett have joined the cast of Last Hit, a new action thriller that also stars Joe Davison, who appears in the second season of Stranger Things, and Levy Duplay, who was the Tailor of Sin City. The film will star Ferguson and Barnett as a pair of criminals looking to get a fresh start from their illicit past. Their boss, played by Duplay, takes one of them hostage to force a final job. Leanne Bauer is also in the cast, playing a trusted confidant to the leading pair. Now, there's more stuff written in there, but you get the general idea. It is unlikely that this is a major motion picture, just, given what I'm reading there, but it's also not some indie that's being made in somebody's backyard. It don't look like. So there's seemingly some growth there. And if that is the case, she may not be available. This article alone says that she has some representation by talent agency, the Me Too Management and MJB Talent Agency. So this may be the direction that she's aiming for. Now, of course, we know some wrestlers have gone on to start acting and what have you, and they don't necessarily leave wrestling. But when you're just getting your career started, you want to be an actor, you may have to give a little bit more time to that than what wrestling would allow. That's under normal circumstances. Given that WoW taped their entire year in 1 month, that might be a little different thing. So, all that aside, congratulations to the Beast. Whether she shows back up in WoW or not, that remains to be seen. I do not imagine that she's just going to up and start like, I'm going to go try to wrestle for Santino Brothers or, Maple Leaf Wrestling or Dreamwave. Right? I don't perceive that as happening, but stranger things have. So, we'll see. Some of you may have heard and or read about the comments that took place at AEW's Revolution by one of the Queen of the Ring actresses. Got up apparently and made a comment that wasn't well thought out, at least at that particular moment. I am speaking of actress Damaris Lewis, who was in the Queen of the Ring film that is currently making the rounds. And part of that publicity tour was her, along with the director, Ash Alverson, I think I'm pronouncing it right, appearing at AEW's Revolution pay-per-view. Now, I honestly have no clue. They have literally one of the bigger stars of the show on their roster, even though they've screwed her over royally, in Camille. She's like the boss at the end of the game. She's like Apollo Creed or Dolph Lundgren. What was his name in Rocky? I can't even. Drago. She's basically like that. She's the final person that's there. Clubber Lang. She's one of them. And they got her on their roster. They didn't have her at all. So I don't know what that's about. But anyway, getting back to the point. While Miss Damaris was at ringside, and she was not given a microphone, but a microphone was placed in front of her, and she made the following comment. One thing I learned about pro wrestlers, y'all know who are going to win before anybody else does. So thank you for teaching me that. Which did not go over well for the wrestling audience for obvious reasons. She basically stood up there in front of a pro wrestling crowd and said, hey, y'all guys know that this thing is fake. Well, at least that's how it came across. She then made an appearance on Busted Open Radio. I'm assuming that they reached out to her to try to get some clarification, which she did clarify, and I can appreciate that. And I'm going to read her comments as to why she said what she said. And this is, again, coming off of Busted Open Radio. First and foremost, I was completely take accountability for how it came out. That was not how it was intended. So I'm sorry for it. It came out way wrong. During the course of our press tour, I've been reiterating the statement that I learned from pro wrestlers that you guys carry something in you that says all the time, I'm going to win, 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 I'm going to win. And it's been incredibly inspiring to me. So having a very short time period to think about an answer in that arena, that's what came out of my mouth. And when I heard it back, I too was like, that's not what I meant. But yes, I've been saying, because it's true, because I'm incredibly inspired by the sport, that you know you're going to win before you step into the ring. No matter what. It's a sport. It's real. People are there in that ring doing what they got to do. It's tough. It's dangerous at times. I respect it fully with my whole heart. So yes, I will say it again. I am so sorry if it came out that way. But like you said, you got to know the house you're in. I know that these fans love their sport and that they were defending their sport, so I can't be mad. So, all right. I'm assuming that Bully Ray or one of the other hosts there probably told, hey, look, you need to know the house that you're in when you make comments like that. And, you know, it did rub me the wrong way, like a lot of people, but I did want to see if there was something else to it. I was trying to track it down, so I was like, okay, maybe the setup for this was wrong, or it was taken out of context or something like that, because those things do happen, especially when you're trying to get clickbait or someone to, you know, go to your website, something like that. It's an easy thing to get, you know, clicks for. We're like, hey, this person says wrestling, y'all know who's going to win, you know, whatever. So good on Busted Open Radio for reaching out to her if that's what they did, but, you know, definitely good on her for appearing on a wrestling podcast or a radio show to clarify those comments. And as she's done that, I can understand and I can respect it if what she says is true, And we're taking her at face value for it. If what she says is true and she has just been repeating these comments over and over and over again, yeah, sometimes that will happen when you run a press junket or you go into different places and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. However, she's also corrected, like, yeah, or whoever told her, look, you need to know what you're dealing with the house you're in and blah, 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 because it didn't come off well. No, it did not come off well, but she seemingly is willing to take accountability for it. I'm sure she did come under fire by internet wrestling fans who probably wanted to run over with a car at that point or whatever the case may be, but she at least understands that the fans there, love their sport, as she says, and are defending it, so she can't be overly mad at it. And I found it a little hard to believe. I was like, I can't imagine that this person who actually sit up there and went to OVW for at least a crash course in pro wrestling could sit up there and, and disregard it completely. That would be a little rough, especially, once you get people past the idea that it's a trampoline. Like, it ain't one, and I'm sure she was in it, so you would think she would know a little better. But anyhow, moving on. There's a memoir featuring Natalia, or Natty Neidhart, as we have her listed in the actual book. The Last Heart Beating, which is set to be in bookstores in October of this year, 2025, as of this recording. And there is a bit of a press release. Now, that press release is long. So, I did put it onto the post page of the YouTube channel. And a portion of it, well, not a portion of it, I have a post with the description of the book on Instagram. But if you want the full press release, it is available. Like I said, go to the post tab on the YouTube channel, and you'll see the press release for Natalia Neidhart's upcoming memoir, Last Heart Beating. Now, the first 2 paragraphs I can give you, that Natalia Neidhart has signed with Ben Bella Books and Simon & Schuster Canada to simultaneously release her raw, honest, and compelling memoir this October in both the U.S. and Canada, a memoir that captures the drama, hilarity, and outright mayhem of her life both inside the ring and out. We are incredibly excited to be partnered with Natty to share her story, said Ben Bella editor-in-chief Leah Wilson. This book is a testament not only to who Natty is as a wrestler, but who she is as a person. Funny, relatable, hardworking, and someone who deeply loves the wrestling business. Now, again, there's a lot that's in there, and it probably would do better to, I know most people want to hear the wrestling side of things rather than, her personal ups and downs, but, all of that's going to be tied in together. One of the lines in here says, as daughter of Jindy Anvil Neidhart, she openly discusses her father's struggles with addiction and a brain injury, which caused continuous turmoil and financial struggle within her family. So, I mean, there's probably a lot in here that's going on. And I don't really make a lot of time for myself to go through a lot of people's memoirs and autobiographies and whatnot, but I might. I don't know if I'm going to get around to this one, but, It does seem interesting just based on the post, the press release that they have. But again, go if you want to read that and you want to see, get a better idea of the description of what they are releasing. Again, October 2025. You can go right there, or you can go directly to the website. You can go to ShimonandSchuster.com. But if you don't want to go there and you need to get a quick way to it, just hit the post tab and it's right there as of this moment, top of the page. If there's another post that comes up, just scroll down a little bit, it will be there. We just got finished looking at Stephanie McCoy and Julia in a champion versus champion match, and they were very good. Very good. This is one of those things that I have talked about as it relates to why WoW cannot rest on the laurels of just being WoW. Because of matches like this. I mean, just think about a couple of factors in that. That match had little to no build. It was done mostly on the merit of the names of Stephanie McCool and Julia. They are world-renowned talents, people who built a name for themselves before they got in WWE. WWE, of course, making them a bigger deal to the public at large. But this is what I mean when I was like, you cannot rest on the laurels of just being wow and, well, we're the only all-women's wrestling promotion. It doesn't matter. Because that's not how wrestling fans and people who are even casual wrestling viewers will see it. When WOW was created 20 years ago, it didn't have any competition, by and large. Now you got that just, at any given moment. You can just go on YouTube, type in women's wrestling, and bam, there it is. And there clearly is an audience for them. I'm sure somebody in management were like, well, they only did that because it's Roadblock and this, that. Well, all right, well, look at their YouTube numbers. That match alone, as of me seeing it, 2 days after its upload, 369,000 views. 369,000 views. That's in 2 days. Not months. Or over the course of the year, that's 2 days. Because of their star power. Because there's plenty of things that go up on WWE's YouTube that doesn't necessarily hit that. But because of them and, a curiosity factor between it, yeah. And there was an energy there. I sat there and watched that match. There was an energy there. It was energy to the crowd. It was something that they wanted to see. They weren't just drones mindlessly clapping for everything that took place, no matter what it was or who did it. And if you haven't watched the match, you should probably go do yourself a favor and look at it. Man, I'm not going to tell you that it's the single most exciting match I've watched in my life. But it's very good, and it's tight. Not a lot of room of error for that. Not a lot of room of errors that took place in there. And you can believe it. I will make that suggestion. If you have not seen it already, you should go and check it out. Now, there's a couple of ways, again, you can do it if you haven't looked at it live while it was on the CW. It also uploads every week now on Tubi. I think I brought that up in the previous podcast. When I went and looked up Evolution, I found out that NXT's being dropped on Tubi every week now. They got a couple of seasons worth of it. From season 8 to season 18, which is current. So now it's just one match, well, not one match, one show after another. So if you didn't catch it there, you can catch it on Tubi TV. Oh yeah, if you just got to deal with the commercials, if you can deal with that, then you are perfectly fine. But speaking of suggested matches, this one was actually suggested to me because I did not see it when it aired. Largely because in the Monday nights I am at work, and as much as I can watch what's airing on broadcast TV there, I cannot watch Netflix because that's not my job. So, I tend to watch Monday Night Raw after the fact. I very rarely see it live these days. I see it whenever I see it. But I didn't particularly go back and watch this match at the time. That being the tag match between Naomi and Bianca Belair taking on Liv Morgan and Rodriguez. And that was a good match. That was a good match. If you haven't seen that, you should go and you should watch it. That one I would definitely suggest. And I would say this much. The highest praise I can give it at this point is that if I were trying to show someone a women's tag match that hadn't watched professional wrestling at all, And like, well, if I was answering the question, could the women have a compelling match in it? I would show them that. Now, some of that is already built on the idea that you should know something about pro wrestling, but I think it could be enjoyed either way. And it was just a good tag team match. The way it set up the false finishes, going, just one after the other, just boom, 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 boom. Dominic being, basically in the managerial role. It was a nice, fun ride. That is the best way that I could put that. It was a nice, fun ride. Now, keep in mind, I'm watching this already knowing that they're going to lose the titles. I'm seeing this in past tense, and I still got taken out of my seat at least twice while they were going into the finish of the match, because I was like, oh, okay, this has to be it, and it was like, oh no, that didn't do it. Like it literally got me out of my seat, and that is not me using literally wrong. It literally got me out of my seat because I can tell you the spot that I was thinking of. I was like, oh, all right, this is where Liv gets that cheap win in, and blah blah blah. And I was like, it was another quick save. They did a magnificent job of getting that thing together and getting that crowd into it. It was a sight to see. I really don't know if I could do it much more justice than that. Now, following that, we know that this led off into what we have seen as the big unveil. The storyline between Naomi, Belair, and Cargill, which reportedly has been praised backstage. I watched the segment where it has been unveiled that Naomi was responsible for Jade Cargill's attack, which also came out of that match because, the match that I watched, at that time it was not unveiled that Naomi was the villain here. So it was still kind of left in the air that Liv and Rodriguez might have had something to do with it. But now we can move back up to present day, and we see that, and these two are having a chat session in the ring. And whereas I'm not going to sit and say that every second of this was television gold, at least there was something there to tell you the how and the why, and it came out of their mouths. It was not fully related by commentators like, well, the backstage, they told me that this happened and she said that she did do it, or she wished I was like, that ain't for the commentators to say. It always will have more impact when you get it coming from the participants. And then they did. Belair and Naomi, and you saw the build for it. And somehow, I don't know if she pushed herself to be emotional in the ring, working up tears, she being Naomi. I think both of them did, actually. And then it got down to the wire. Did you do it or did you not? Yes or no? And it's like, yes, I did it, and I wish I had done it sooner, and blah, blah, blah. And that's, of course, when Jade got there, which was, excellent timing, I guess. And the camera just happened to be right there in the parking lot waiting for her to come in with a live feed so that everybody can see it. So she gets out of the truck and walks with a mission right up to the gorilla position through the curtain, past the LED screens, the entrance. And this is after Bianca leaves the ring heartbroken and kind of walks out on Naomi, and Naomi screaming at her from the ring, and he's like, you ungrateful bitch. So we can pretty much see that she's slipped over into heel mode. And then that's where, of course, Jade comes in. That's what I was talking about. And then she gets in the ring and does a number on Naomi. Even though Naomi looked like she was ready to fight initially, she does the heel coward thing. As soon as the fight seems very real and present, she gets ready to run. She turns and like, all right, I got to get out of here. And of course, Jade cuts her off and beats her up. And the last image that you get out of that is as she's being hoisted up in the air, Naomi yells for Bianca and then goes face first into the mat. And that was praised. That has reached over 1 million views on both the USA Network channel and the WWE YouTube channel. Now, I don't know where they're going to go with this. It seems like they still got some story to unfold there, but they got some mileage that they can get out of this. And the most important part is that they actually are doing something to try and make people care. Now, whether you did or not, that's a different issue, but they are doing something to try and make people care. Give them credit for that. Also, on a side note, as we get ready to lead off into the next thing, I think I had brought up that I was upset with one Penelope Pink and Sandy Shore for making their way into the state that I'm in a drivable distance for me and not, on a weekend that I would actually be in town. Shame. Shame on you both. But they both had a match at in Augusta, Georgia. And they didn't just have the match as their alternate personalities, their independent personalities. They came in as their wild personalities, as Penelope Pink and Sandy Shore. And I have to say, I was somewhat surprised that took place. I don't know if I've seen many people, I know it's happened, but I don't know if I've seen many people take their WoW personas beyond WoW. When I brought it up before, I did mention the fact that one woman that I know of did that. That was Riot. And that was pretty much a one and done thing. She never really pursued wrestling beyond that point. At least outside of WoW. So there's precedent for it, but it's not a normal / reoccurring thing. So I was really surprised that they brought this up to begin with at all. The promotion, by the way, is Next Level Championship Wrestling. Next Level Championship Wrestling out of Augusta, Georgia. And the match is up somewhere right now. So, you can look at it and watch if that's something you choose to do. Now, I will say this about that match because I did watch it. I did not, trying to find a good way to say this. It wasn't a bad match, but it wasn't the best match I've seen from either participant, if that makes sense. It was like an unofficial WoW house show or unofficial WoW house show match. Like, it wasn't anything at stake. It didn't feel like it had any heat / build to it. And given the fact that WoW has not really presented Sandy Shore in a strong light, I just did not feel like her winning was ever a thing. It never crossed my mind that Sandy Shore was going to win this match. Never. And that's largely just because of the program. It was because of WoW's show. WoW has just not presented her in that fashion. Now, had it been their alternates, Maddie Max, Marina Tucker, that might have left me open to some level of disbelief. But as it is, just with those two, I didn't even feel it. And I don't know, it felt like something wonky happening at the end of that match also. The referee, who I have been on, at shows with, they for a while they referred to him as Grandpa Booker. Now, I don't know if they still do that. They probably shouldn't. But, yeah, he's been all over the place, that guy. But when he did the count at the end, it's like he was wanting to hold up the count for Sandy Shore, but he had to bring it down anyway. So I just go find a match and you can look at it, you can judge that for yourself. But that's what I got from it. All that to say, well, all that aside, interesting match. If you feel like watching, I would say, hey, go ahead, check it out. It's not all that long. Just bear in mind, at least the version of it that I watched, the first minute and like 20 seconds of it is completely muted. Clearly because Tucker or Penelope Pink was using the song that was causing some sort of copyright issues, I would imagine. So it seemed like they just muted it just to get the theme song out, because the rest of it, before and after, are fine. Until she leaves and they're playing the song again and then it has to remute it. So I was like, all right, yeah, that's they're trying to avoid some copyright issues with this. So there you have it. But worth the watch if you're just out of curiosity, if nothing else, just to see them in a different environment and what have you. I kind of want them to do it again, but I would want them, all due respect to Sandy Shore, to do it with something or two participants that the audience can believe in. Or at least change the presentation of Sandy Shore in that environment. I think that might help. But as a just walking in as Sandy Shore without really any sort of change or some promo to make them believe that there's going to be a different kind of fight than what you see on WOW's television. Without that, it did take something away from it for me. But again, that's not to say that they can't fix it the next go round. That would be my only suggestion. So, make of that what you will. Also, before I move out of the news, views, and updates, I do want to make a quick mention here. And that mention is comments. One, thank you for Captain Commentator because he's just been funny when he been putting his commentators up, his comments. Daisy Lane is Elixir Bliss with ink. He said if they don't get a cease and desist letter from TKO, then I'll send a love letter to Chainsaw. Well, hey, look, man, Chainsaw might need a love letter, Captain. Hey, come on, just because she was raised in a basement full of chainsaws, that doesn't mean that she's not a lovely woman. Secondly, Zentara has a wonderful review that is up and available for full read. I need to start putting these on the website. They're very well written, and the Sibley Scholes thing, I like it here. Sibley Scholes interview, her review of that, because I completely agree. It was like Phoenix politely talked about being jumped at the end of the match and shrugged it off like it was nothing, which is pretty much what I said. She thanks the fans for supporting her. I was like, what is she doing with this elegant, nice girl attitude, and why do they keep letting her? I agree, Zentara. I fully agree. And lastly, Lindsay Ray Gunn, which I asked, she made a comment at the top of the page and mentioned to me that she also is part of a podcast. And I wanted to be able to share that podcast with anybody that's listening who may want to tune in. She does have some interviews with some of the individuals from WOW. And that was the whole response. That was the comment that she was responding to, me saying that I doubt that anybody from WOW would want to be on this show. If you heard me the previous podcast. And of course, I stand by that. I doubt that anybody from WOW would want to be on this show, particularly while they're on WOW's TV. They might not find that to be the best thing for them career-wise. It's quite possible. But I will say this before I go off any further, because I wanted to make it clear that the doors for it are open. The door for anybody, past or present, that is in WOW that would like to come on the show and talk about their career, why they got into WOW, and what they agree with the creative, what they didn't agree with the creative. Management, wrestlers, and whoever if anybody is there, the door is open. All you have to do is reach out. That's it. Because I haven't reached out to anybody that's currently on the roster. I reached out to other people. And oddly enough, even the ones that say, yeah, I love to talk about it, they will vanish. Make of that what you will. And that is not an exaggeration. There have been a few of them, at least 3 that I could think of, that have said something about WoW at some point. Like, yeah, I'd like to talk about it. And then nothing. It's like somebody just snatched them off of social media. So I don't know what to say about that. Anyhow, getting back to the point. Open door for anybody, past or present, that wants to come on this show and tell me what they, believe or like or dislike or whatever about WoW and its production. But I asked Lindsay to leave links to those particular episodes, and she did. So if you want to hear what she and or her co-hosts, I'm assuming there's co-hosts, did with their interview, it is available right there in the comments. The podcast is called Grit and Glitter. Grit and Glitter. Sorry. Let me make sure I say that right. Grit and Glitter. It's available on podbean.com, which is the same platform that I use. And the ones that I see that she has is Exodus. She did put that in the comments as well, that she had Karen Tran, that is her actual name, Exodus, coming on talking about her wrestling career. So if you want to hear that particular interview, click that link. I'm happy to share. Anybody else that's got something out there that want to spread a little bit of information around, feel free to let me know. I'll do what I can. To my little bit of audience, I am more than happy to share. So there we have it. Grit and Glitter pod.podbean.com. That is gritglitterpod.podbean.com. And if that didn't work for you, go to this to the comment page under the episode 129 review. The links are under that. Under episode 129 review, Top Tier Terrors, those are the links. So now that we've done that, let us get ready. I think I've stalled as much as I can stall because I, wasn't really doing flips to get off into reviewing this particular episode, but I guess it's time. So we'll do a quick break here, and then we'll come back. It's off to the review. Stay tuned.
Oh, honey.
I had a bad dream.
Only dreams that we make come true are real. We're gonna wish away all those bad thoughts.
1, 2, 3.
I promise you, my son, our lives together will be special.
Where's your little boy's father, anyway?
Mister, I ain't gonna marry no circus freak.
He done let me over this.
Billy Wolf! I'm really curious to see what you can do with her.
You barely know him. He's the only man that's ever believed in my dream.
We got a job to do tonight. You go out there and you wrestle your heart out.
Maybe we can headline arenas. I know that we can.
I want to talk to you about putting 2 of my girls on your card.
My main event is heavyweights and then main.
Why would anyone want to limit the spectacle of competition based on gender?
Looks like we're cleaning up every night of the week now. It's got me thinking, Billy.
I want us secure as equal partners.
Then do what's right for business.
Honor the deal or we shoot.
You will do what I say, or you will find yourself cleaning toilets in some arena after my show comes through.
Ma, all the tickets you 2 ever sold had your name on them, not his.
Mr. McMahon.
How can I get a guarantee that my ladies can wrestle in the state of New York?
Let's show them how we do it in the South.
Come on, Mom, get up. Remember. 1, 2.
I'm actually the highest paid female athlete.
In Washington?
In history.
And we're back. You know, I do put up a poll on our YouTube channel. At least I try to once in every week. And that poll is there to get an idea of the people that, you know, what you thought of the show. That particular episode that is in review. And I haven't brought it up, lately, but I just want to go into the poll results as it lists right now. You know, and full disclosure, it's not like it's hundreds of people that's voting, but, you know, I appreciate the votes that are there. But as it is, it stands that 53% believe that the last episode, that Who's the Fabbest of the Four, was great. 11% thought that it was terrible. 37% thought it was meh. And I was really kind of shocked that the indifference, the meh, was as big as it was. I mean, it didn't overtake being great, but it was surprising to me. Not from my own personal standpoint, because honestly, this is probably the most meh episode that I've seen in some time. It wasn't horrible, but it also wasn't like really good either. It was an episode, and that's pretty much all I got out of it. There wasn't a great deal of intertwining story or things that made me want to watch, that kept me, engaged or compelled, like, oh man, what's going to take place, what's going to happen, why is she doing that, or is this person going to get the match that they need, or whatever the case may be. I didn't get any of that, which is a large part of the reason that I brought it up in the news, views, and updates segment, because these things do happen. And sometimes, in the case of the Vacour Julia scenario, sometimes it's not going to be built off of the words that are said in the ring, but it might be built off of the merit of who they are, just because they were stars and presented as such. I oftentimes don't get the feeling that Wild does any of that. They just do enough to kind of get them by. And that's where it starts and that's where it stops. But let us not deviate too far away from that. We'll go off into the beginning of the show and see how this thing ran. And we'll give our commentary along the way, as usual. So the slate here is episode 326, which means season 3, episode 26, title, Who's Fabbest of the Four? Chronological number, this will be their 130th episode, and the air date was March the 8th. It opens up with the Fab Four in the segment. And Star is happy and she's gloating that HollySwag and Penelope Pink are going to win the tag titles and bring them back to the Fab Four. Now she's doing this, of course, while Miami Sweet here, just standing there. We notice that as the camera pulls back and unveils that they are there also, and we get a little bit of why brought up there. So, just for the sake of the attempt, I would give this a thumbs up, because at least the effort was there. And there's oftentimes there's very little effort that WOW would put into the actual participants telling the story. Here, the actual participants are telling the story, and I was completely shocked that was taking place. So, like I said, it if we're talking about the production of it was fine. It started, like I said, it started off, you're right in Lana's face, essentially, and it pulls back and she's sitting on the couch with both HollySwag and Penelope Pink. Pink, who seems very disinterested. Swag is doing swag stuff. And standing there are Miami Sweet Heat, and they're like, hey, yo, what's up? What about us kind of deal, right? Laurie keys into the conversation like, look, we don't need Laurie. We'll show them how real champions work. And I gotta say, I liked that, because it at least gave them something. They weren't just stands. They weren't just there. They weren't just taking the insult. Now, I will repeat, I don't think that there's been enough motivation from Lana Star to do what she's doing. I still don't think that. I do not believe that there's enough motivation for her to turn around and be like, well, I don't need Miami Sweet Heat. I'm just going to go with this new team that I just threw together. It would make more sense to me in that regard, and I know I've said this before, if Miami Sweet Heat had lost key matches that caused Lana Star to lose faith in them. It's not that she isn't doing, I guess, shady managerial stuff, because she is. And I don't mind that. Just like when she went into the Battle Royal, I said that, hey, she's coming off like a manager. She didn't care which one won the Battle Royal. She just wanted one of them to win. It didn't matter if it was Penelope Pink or HollySwag. She just wanted one of them to win it. So the idea that she would just want the titles back is not shocking. It doesn't, it's not like, I don't know why she wouldn't do it. No, it makes sense that she would want the titles back regardless of who got it. I just think that she needed another reason to go against her winning team, because let's face it, one of the few people that's on this roster, teams or single, that have been presented as a winning combination of any sort have been Miami Sweet Heat. Regardless of whether I agree with it or not, they've been presented as a team that has won. So there's not a real justified reason other than HollySwag just, hey, we'll be a team. And then that was like all the motivation she needed. Like, hey, well, we'll make y'all go after the titles. It just didn't seem like a lot to me. It didn't seem like enough to get her to this point. But fortunately, it's kind of like we're going to make the best out of the whatever, loose knit story that we do have. And like I said, when Lindsay's talking about, hey, we're right here, we're the tag champs, blah 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 blah. Laurie cuts into that and says, no, there ain't no problem. We'll just show them how real champions work. And I like the fact that they didn't just roll over and die more or less, or they didn't just suddenly become completely subservient all just out of the blue. I'm sure somebody backstage is like, man, this is going to be a fantastic story, but I am still concerned, because if there's one thing that WoW has taught me is that I don't care how reasonable the story may happen to be, they can find some kind of way to screw it up. And I fully expect them to screw it up. Now, if they don't, then that's great. But I fully expect them to screw it up. So they say that. They say, hey, look, we'll show them how real champions work. They walk out, and Swag gives them a little bit of lip on the way out of the door. Essentially saying that they'll be the tag team champions. And she turns to Pink to give a high five. Pink just pulls the magazine back up and ignores her completely. And now that part of it, I don't really get. I don't understand what they're trying to relate with that. I get that, Pink is not overly friendly with Swag, but somehow Lana Star is. Like, again, motivation. Why is Lana so completely perfectly fine with, okay, well, Swag is in here, so I'll deal with all of her crap, in order for her to get a tag title shot, I guess. That's what I mean. It's like it's the little things that take place within that I don't understand, like those. Where's the motivation for Lana on either side of that? Why is she so perfectly willing to deal with the obnoxiousness of HollySwag? Why is she also so perfectly willing to just accept, well, Miami Sweet, he's done now, so off to this new toy I got. It's a good segment. I just wish it had more build. The next segment is the match itself. We got Miami Sweet Heat going against Princess Aussie and Tormenta, which I guess there's no official name for the team. Somebody called them the Power Duo or something like that before, but that was never anything that was listed officially on WoW. It was like on WoW's Wikipedia page. I think they just assigned them a name just because they wanted to assign them a name. I've often said that, I don't know if I would classify the twins as the single best working team in the WoW, but they certainly look the part of being stars. And that has not changed. They do look the part, and they do work hard. I'm not going to take that away from them. And it's probably a better thing that they are in there with some people that they have some level of chemistry with, as that would be related to, most people. So they come out without Lana Star, and that was another thing that kind of got me. It's like, at what point is it that Lana was incapable of going to more than one match at a time? Like, the motivation thing is one thing. But then they started off, when we go back a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks by now, I don't know. But when we go back to when this initially happened, the first time that Sweet Heat and Aussie and Tormenta crossed paths, it was a conflicting story of, well, Lana chose not to be here. And then it's like, well, Lana was banned because of this. So here again, what was the motivation? What was the proper motivation behind her not being there? Was it because she was banned and she actually stuck to the ban when everybody else seemingly don't? Was it because she just chose not to be there like they decided to go with later on? It's like they really didn't know which path they wanted to take, so let's just try them both and cover our ass. And it doesn't make sense. I mean, it really doesn't. It doesn't make sense why she just sitting like, I can't go out there and manage more than one person at a time. That's insane. But here, at the very least, to give any credit where credit might be due, at least it was as the result of the twins saying that we can do this on our own. So we get off into that, and the twins come out first. Aussie and Tormenta come out after that. And it begins with Aussie and Lindsay. And it's pretty much, I would say in the first minute or so, we got some high-flying spots going on in there. Largely from Tormenta. Lindsay comes, got in there first, and then she made a quick tag out to Laura. Then they all four get in the ring and square off. The referee's in the back doing what referees do, just waving his arms nonstop, like, hey, guys, stop. Which I really have grown to hate that. It is the most useless thing. And I know it's not much else that the referees can do at that point, but damn, it just makes him look like such a ineffective official. They completely ignore the referee. All four of them completely bypass and ignore anything that he's saying or doing. I mean, at this point, I would prefer if he was actively standing there. All right, guys, you got 5, 1. Even if he had to slow it down to try to help them accommodate whatever spot it is that they're trying to do, I would prefer that than him standing around waving his arms like he's, hey, please stop. He's just begging. That's all he's doing. He's just begging, hoping for them to cease whatever it is that he doesn't want them to do. And it's not doing anybody any good because no one's listening. But anyhow, it's all four men there, and the important part is that the babyfaces get the heels on the outside of the ring. They drop them with drop kicks. They roll out. That sets Aussie up to be able to do a dive through the ropes, and she nails both of Miami Sweet Heat because they go over to the audience side, and then they stand there and they take it. Because for whatever reason, they decided that this is a good place for us to go, even though we could clearly see that Princess Aussie is lining up to take a run out of this ring. So she does that, and she nails him. There's a good dive. And then it's set up for the next one. And it's Tormenta. And she gets up on the top rope. And now she definitely popped the crowd. Even though I don't like this crowd, and I probably never will at this point because all I can see whenever I watch them is just a bunch of drones clapping thunderclappers together who, like I said, they're just cheering for every little thing that happens no matter what. Even though in this instance, the applause are completely justified. The dive through the ropes, and then a bigger dive off the top turnbuckle to the floor by Tormenta, who does basically a senton flying out, and I forget what that is. Anyhow. And I'm sure that did not feel good coming out to the floor, but, that's the price you take, the price you pay and the chance you take for the bumps that you make. And they get him back in the ring is Aussie and is Lori. Aussie drops a big elbow. Very well executed. Looks good. And the baby faces are in control up until, a certain point, obviously, when they finally can swing this thing around. There was some spot there that I was like, it really, really illustrated that Lori knew exactly what was coming right up. It was I'm reading my notes here, so bear with me. Anyway, it was right when Aussie was about to take a run at Lori, who's on the ropes, as Tormenta sends her partner Aussie towards their opponent. And it just shows that Lori is ready to hoist her out over the top rope. Now, I don't think that's a massive crime, but it did telegraph it a bit. Then she turns and runs towards Tormenta. Tormenta runs and turns her back towards the rope. That gives Aussie a chance to pop Tormenta on the not Tormenta, but pop Lori on the second rope. Then Tormenta gives her a go for the cover, but that does not last because it's broken up by Lindsay. Then Lindsay gets in. Tormenta's about to do whatever it is. I'm assuming she was going to go for a double underhook face plant, but we'll never know because Lori came in and saved her sister. And then Tormenta turns towards Lori like, what are you doing? Aussie comes in, like, what are you doing? Lori's going to the outside like, hey, no problem. I'm getting out of here. Leaving Lindsay to wait for Tormenta to turn around before she nails with a clothesline and knocks him down. This is where the babyfaces are now taking the heat. They are in trouble because Miami Sweet Heat have usurped control. Getting towards the end, because, the important parts here are not necessarily all this other stuff. Aussie was the one that got most of the heat in here, if I can recall. Let me make sure here. Nope. Tormenta took a good chunk of that too. So anyhow, when Tormenta is flung into the turnbuckles, and I'm sorry I said Aussie earlier, I meant Tormenta. This is probably one of the better setups for, a hot tag that I've seen them do. When you get Lindsay and Lori, they walk Tormenta out towards the middle of the ring. They shoot her into their side. They try to make a charge in. And I got to give it to him. The timing was pretty good here. Lori charges in. She's thrown out over the top by Tormenta. Here comes Lindsay. She goes for a clothesline. Lori pops up just in time to get nailed by it. And Lindsay looks like she's distraught, like, I can't believe I just did that, which is, a good natural reaction. She turns around, sees Aussie that has gotten up to the top rope, and then she gets caught by a high cross body off of the top. That doesn't end. I mean, it was. If there's a photo of that out there, that's probably one of the things that they should have on a WOW poster somewhere. Aussie flying through the air because it looked great. So now Aussie's in control, and she's trying to score the win. When she actually does get the opportunity to get Lindsay down for what could be a 3 count, Lori's back up, and she prevents that. That brings all 4 participants in, and then we got the referee doing the same damn thing he did earlier, just standing there waving his arms around. I really want to know why they're telling just wave your arms. Just tell him, hey, stop. Because it just makes him look so ineffective. The referees are in there working too, and he does not need to sacrifice his authority in the match. Now, yeah, I understand they got stuff that they need to do. But he needs to, all of them. He needs to come up with something else to minimize just standing around. Hey, guys, stop. That. So anyhow, all four of them in. Referee's standing around. Lindsay tosses Tormenta out to the floor. Aussie is down. Then she's picked up by Lindsay. Laura goes up to the top rope. They set up for the Fab Jab. 1, 2, 3. They beat him clean. And I was like, okay, this is essentially a clean win here. They pinned Aussie with the Fab Jab to do it. And then it makes me think to myself, like, all right, well, where are we going with this? Because that's going to determine a lot. If they are remaining heels, then this feud is done. Miami Sweet Heat got their win back. Now, of course, they could revisit it a third time. Just, you won one, we won one, so let's, do the tiebreaker. They can always do that. But whatever it was that Miami Sweet Heat started off with, like, I can't believe, I don't know what we're going to do without Lana in our corner. Well, they pretty much disproved that now. They won, and they did it without Lana having to be there, without Lana having to interfere. They did it without having to do any chicanery, or steel chair, or pull the tights, or any of that. They just won. So I don't know, if they are remaining heel, what do they need Lana Star for? If they're going baby faces, then this is just fine. It's the first step to them becoming baby faces over time. But I think I am giving way too much credit to a situation that they're probably not doing, any changes. It's not going to surprise me in either direction, but just judging off of what we came from with Daisy Lane and Chainsaw and that whole thing, and then it just put Chainsaw right back to where she was with absolutely no growth, then I don't expect anything out of this either. But the end result is that Sweet Heat got their win back over the babyface team of Tormenta and Aussie. They did it, and they won flat. Didn't require them having to do anything. So I don't know what the narrative is supposed to be now. It's like, do they need Lana Star or not? It's maybe the most engaging story that's going on. Well, maybe. And I'm really pushing it to say that, because I don't know if I have enough friction within the camp of the Fab Four for me to care about this in a major sense. I would like to see some growth here. And I would like to see Miami Sweet Heat do something that gets them engaged without necessarily being in the title picture. I mean, they should always want it. They should always want the titles. But they do need something else to do. I've been saying that for a while, and this might be it. If that is where it leads to, then I'm fine with it. But as it is right now, that probably, arguably, was, the most engaging thing that took place. I mean, the matches in this episode are fine overall. But this may be the only, and when I say this, I'm talking about the Fab Four scenario in total. It may be the only thing that has some sort of ongoing storyline that, you might want to watch or care about or whatever the case. But time will tell. The next segment is a promo for Gianni and Chantilly Chella. That's shown as being the next thing that's coming up on the show. And then we go to the segment after that, which is the actual match. It's Gigi Gianni with BK Rhythm coming out, taking on Chantilly Chella, who is doing the dumb babyface thing because every other heel comes out with somebody. Chella, who's got like 3 or 4 different tag team partners and or friends. Not one of them came out there with her. Not Kalaki, not Holiday, not who was the last one? Roxxy, who's on this same show, an episode, and not even not Tiki. These are all people that she's tagged with and been friends with, and none of them came out, despite the fact that we know full well that Gigi Gianni is not going to walk out here by herself. And that's another thing. Let's go into the whole Gianni BK Rhythm Brat Pack. The alliance might as well just be done. It might as well just be done. Why is it still a thing? Gambino is nowhere to be found. They don't even take the time to let Del Rey come out there as a bodyguard for him or something. I don't know if I've seen many other factions that have been formed and just like, just kind of do nothing and disappear. And that's pretty much what it was. It's just like they formed this faction and it didn't do anything. It didn't change anything. It didn't alter the path of what they were doing. It didn't make any of them any better a team. They didn't go after any sort of championships. They didn't make any sort of mission statement as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. Nothing. It just doesn't do anything. So why is there even an alliance built to begin with? Where was that going? They did it for like 2 or 3 weeks and then nothing. The Brat Pack may as well just be the Brat Pack and just leave it at that. They almost never come out with anybody else unless it's a full-on 4-on-4 or 3-on-3, I should say. They do not unveil or give you the impression that this is a unit. And those things do matter, you know. How would anybody care about the alliance? How would anybody even remotely view them in the same category as a Fab Four, as a top tier? How? It can't be done. And so, you know, you get this. You get them just kind of existing in their own little bubble. The one good thing that I got when I was watching this, at the beginning at least, is that at least Zayn promos while social media. Because for a while there, they didn't bother to do that in the least. At least he took the time. I don't know if somebody gave him some instruction or he's doing it on his own. But at least he's like, hey, you know, go visit our YouTube and the social media and this, that, and the other. At least there was some effort. Rhythm opens this up with, you know, doing a typical thing. Her normal rap. This is somewhat portrayed as Gianni getting even with Chella for I shouldn't even say Chella. Chella and her friends going over on the alliance. So this angle wise, if I can call it that, kind of is loosely strung to the whole alliance Chella Holiday Kalaki deal. I mean, it's very, very loosely strung. I don't know. It just seems like such a waste. So Chella's out there. She comes out and she's dancing. Of course, like I said, Rhythm does her opening rap. Entertaining as it may be, is not helping anybody in the alliance, her included. It is just part of the process now. It's not like it's talking people into watching the show. it's not like it's getting that team or the faction over. And that's probably because it's being wasted in front of this audience. It's not that BK Brothers was necessarily doing anything wrong. I just think that it is being wasted in front of this audience because this audience does not care. This audience is just there to watch TV taping. I'm sure there's some wrestling fans in it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's none. But for the most part of this, I do not get the impression that they could care less about this. So anyhow, the match starts off, and it's a very grounded match, and it's done, very well in my opinion. But I have spoken highly of nearly all participants involved here. Gianni, Chella, Rhythm, they all seem, to be very good at what they do. Rhythm is on the outside, walking around by the audience portion of it, and she's antagonizing / telling them cheer and whatnot. Meanwhile, in the ring, you got, the two ladies doing what they do. This essentially is a somewhat filler match, I would say. Because I don't know if this is going to do anything particular for Gianni or the Brat Pack for that matter. I've been long wanting the Brat Pack to go somewhere and do something and grow inside this company, but I've given up on it. So that's how I just kind of classified it as like, I think this is just there just to kind of fill the time. And it ends with Chella getting Gianni down and getting ready to do a springboard move of some description. Rhythm grabs the ankles of Chella as she jumps up on, the ropes. Of course, Dave McClain is sitting there watching this and calls the fact that she's cheating right in front of his face, but he didn't do anything about it, even though he's the guy that can do stuff about it. She yanks the feet out from her, so when she leaps backwards, there's no one there. BK Rhythm stopped the assault just long enough for Gianni to be able to get out of the way. And she does. And Chella plants herself on that mat. This sets up Gianni for whatever it is that she was doing. And I know you got to have some sort of nice and, aesthetic looking finish, but I gotta be honest, I didn't like this finish or her finisher. It didn't look like anything that would just knock this woman out. I mean, out of everything else that was going on in the match, I just didn't see how her hooking the arm and flipping over was going to be the thing that just put her away. It didn't do it for me. Now, that ain't to say that she should just stop doing it and maybe she can get it over. I don't know. But I have no idea what that thing was. It didn't look overly impressive, and I love Gianni and the work. I just wish she had a different finisher that she was using, even if it was a basic one. Just something that looked like it had some sort of impact to it and that you could believe that for 3 seconds this person would have the bell rung, that they would stay down and not move. But I honestly was surprised that Gianni won. I fully expected her to walk in here and lose because why not? They've all lost. Or at least the Brat Pack loses on a frequent and regular basis. So I didn't see this as being anything different. I was pleasantly surprised, though. Pleasantly surprised that Gianni scored the win. The next segment was promoting the next match, that being Roxy Fierce and Genesis. The segment after that, the match itself. You can see the running theme here for the show. Not a lot of fluff and backstage this, or at least not yet. It was a brief segment in the beginning, and that thing was probably like less than a minute. And then from that point, it's been match, promo, match, promo. And then we have, again, we're down to the match. It's Genesis and Roxy Fierce. I like Roxy. Genesis has grown on me. And this match, not bad. Pretty short, but not bad. But it's also another case of I don't know if this has anything going for it. It's just another match. Same thing I said about the Gianni Chella match. It just feels like time filler. Why does it feel like that? It feels like that to me because Genesis has largely been talking about the same thing, feels like for a year now. And I've used terms with certain people, Fury, for instance. I love her as a talent, but I think in WoW, she's rudderless. She's a rudderless boat. She's just moving with whatever current that they have. If we want you to go this way, she goes that way. She need you in this team. We need you in, go to that team. We need you as a single, be a single. She doesn't have any particular direction in mind. Well, Genesis is slightly different than that. She has a direction. She's just not getting any ground. Genesis is less of a rudderless boat and more like a hamster on the wheel. Like she's running. And she's doing a lot of work in this running. But she ain't going nowhere. Like almost everything that she's done leading into the group being dissolved and this run that she's doing now has not gotten her anywhere. It went from I'm the leader of Exile, follow me, and then I'm going to fight in this triple threat. Well, first she declared herself the leader, but then she had to wrestle to be the leader, I guess. She wins that and then almost immediately dissolves the group. And then it's, I need to be respected. I need a main event. I'm going after the title. And more or less, if we're going off of wins here, then she probably should get a shot. There have been people on this show that have gotten shots for less. But she is just, I want a shot, and not really getting it. So, hamster on the wheel, man. She is nothing happening to get her any further to whatever goal it is that she may have instilled for herself, either in front of or behind the camera. And I don't know how much time she could do just that over and over and over and over again. If there ever was a case to be made for why most wrestling promotions need a secondary championship, Genesis is the case study for that. Because she might not need to be the world's champion. And, I'm not even because I don't refer to WoW Championship as a world title. She might not need to be the WoW champion. But if she was going to have some objective singularly, then some secondary championship would be useful for her in that regard. At least then she would have a title, she could exist in her own thing. Honestly, I think it would have been better served for them to have a singular title secondary to their main one, opposed to creating trios titles. That was just a waste of money. But yeah, if there is any case study anywhere for why some wrestling promotions would need a secondary championship, this is it. This is the case study. This is the example. Because without it, she doesn't seem to have much happening. She doesn't seem to have any particular focused path. I was going to say focused objective. She has an objective. She just didn't have a clear path to it. So, McLean starts talking about receiving a note from Genesis Council about wanting a title match and, won't participate in any more trios match. I was like, what? When did she participate in the trios match last? She walked out in the last one. Why would she need counsel to tell him that? I think that was a pretty clear and evident thing. Never mind the fact that she said it on TV. I don't want to be in the trios. I don't want to be part of a team. She said that openly. So why do you need a letter to reinforce this fact? That just make him sound like a goddamn idiot. I had to get a letter for her. I didn't understand that she didn't want to be in a trios thing. I'm like, come on. And how is that relevant to anything? It wasn't. It wasn't relevant to anything that was going on here at all. Anyhow, so Roxy comes out. Now, if there's anything that I would say about Roxy Fierce, I think I mentioned that she looks like she has some star ability, and star power potential. I won't say she has star power, but she has the potential for it. But here's where the shortcoming for Roxy exists. Roxy is largely an extension of her sister. Roxy Fierce is just, the stand-in for Foxy Fierce at this point. Now, she doesn't wrestle like Foxy, but, I got to come out with the fur coat. I'm still pushing the 70s disco, and quite literally my name is just a letter off of being who my sister is. I would really push trying to create some individuality off of her, because at this point she's gotten into more singles matches because Foxy isn't there from some injury that took place that no one saw. So we got another one of those happening, which means she's going to be gone for another extended period of time. I mean, my gosh. What was it? This is the second go-round for that? So you probably got another several weeks, if not months, of her not being available to her sister. So the team of the Fierce Sisters is pretty much null and void. This would be, again, one of the times that if we were going to build somebody, let's try to refocus Roxy into being a singles act. And I don't think that she needs necessarily the gimmick of coming out to the exact same music with fur coat and, dancing around and all that stuff like that. She could have, and I say could have in past tense because all this is pre-taped. She could have been positioned as a stronger competitor. Not to say that they aren't doing reasonably well with her. And I don't know who's been putting the match together, because I thought, despite the fact that it's a short match, I thought Genesis and Foxy did better than what I would have expected out of them. Roxy gets to showcase the fact that she's strong and seemingly stronger than most other WoW girls. She does wrestle a WoW style. Everybody that comes out of the WoW camp has to take essentially the same fighting stance. Just put up your dukes and circle around for a little while. Except for Genesis. She has her own little variation of that by putting her arms in an X, which I'm not overly a fan of, but we can let that go. Roxy does a nice amateur takedown in the beginning. This is after Genesis smacks her in the face, and then Roxy's like, hey, what the fuck? And then walks over to the other side. But she slings her around a little bit, and I like that, because with somebody who is positioned and or shown to be strong in the ring, basic moves work. They don't have to be overly flashy. They don't have to have a grand repertoire of wrestling holds. In fact, in this case, I would say she should probably steer away from them. Like when she was doing the arm drags and all that stuff. I was like, no, you know what? You probably don't need to do that. Stick with the power. It works better for you. You know, you don't want to get rid of all wrestling holes. But that is what would be largely believable for her. And in the course of the match, when she's getting slung around, Genesis finally creates an opening for herself, and Roxy sends her into the turnbuckle, and then she charges in, and Genesis gets out of the way. Then Genesis goes to work on the leg. She takes it, drapes it over the ropes, and yanks out at it. Roxy does what Roxy's trying to do. She's trying to get free of it. Takes a swipe at her with her free foot. Genesis puts on a nice leg lock, and she really applies it really well. Puts her foot on one foot of her opposition while cranking the leg of the other. Loved it. Loved the attention to detail. Loved her throwing the leg around, smacking it on the mat and whatnot, and on the edge of the apron and so on and so forth. It made sense for what was going on in the ring. Again, you got somebody who is largely seen, at least in the few times that we've seen her, as stronger than her opposition. And so the opposition has to do something to neutralize that. Genesis applies a great submission hold. It's not a sharpshooter, but it's set up as such. Which is, I'm just going to stop to say this, which is why I do not like having a standard wrestling move as an injury point. Unless you're going to apply it in a dangerous format or hold it for a ridiculous amount of time. Because Roxy is essentially in not the same move, but a similar one. And she's going to be up walking around, within seconds. Which always makes the other person that got into the move to begin with, Terror Strike, like she's just made out of, cardboard or something. And Foxy, I keep saying, change the name. Jesus. Roxy. What idiot named her Roxy anyway? And you got Foxy in there. They don't have to be, they ain't twins. They ain't got to have the same name. Anyhow, where was I with that? Got me all upset just with the name. All right, so anyhow, Genesis is working on the leg. Roxy gets up. She's trying to survive this thing. Genesis tries to charge in. She runs into an elbow because Roxy sees it coming. Genesis tries to come out, and Roxy's still selling the leg. Good on her. She gets out there, she's selling that thing, and it still works. Gives her a shoulder block, even with the shoulder block, still selling it. And she gives a big clothesline. The clothesline was great, and she's selling the leg. I was impressed. And then she does what I said is probably the best move in her repertoire right now, the back suplex. And she does it with good execution. Goes for the cover. Genesis is able to get out of that. Roxy is still selling that leg. Great. She looked like she's trying to go for a belly-to-belly. Somehow Genesis is able to stop it. Fires off a couple of elbows. Shoots Roxy into the ropes. And then she tries to go for a spin kick. And that thing was beautiful. The timing that they had on that. Because there are some times where you'll see some wild matches and it is clearly evident that I'm ducking this well ahead of time, or I'm going to shoot this clothesline too high, or I'm going to kick high to make sure that I don't do it. Nope. Here, Roxy comes off the ropes. Genesis is ready to fire off that kick, and she gets down just in time. I mean, at least it looks like she got out of the way from a kick that could knock my head off. That's what it came off as. That's how it should come off. And so Genesis gets Roxy tries a rear waist lock, following ducking that, and Genesis is able to reverse it. Roxy's able to get out of that. She's applying trying to apply the strength to break free, but she goes into the ropes, and then Genesis is shrugged off. That then leads to the finish. and it comes back to the knee or the leg. Genesis kicks the leg that she had been working on earlier in the match. That drops Roxy down to a knee because it's already hurt. That leaves her open. Genesis fires in a kick to the side of the head. 1, 2, 3. She scores the win. And, without making Roxy look terribly bad. I thought that was, one of the better matches that I've seen off of just focused wild talent. And when you looked at the replay of that kick to the head, it looked like there was very little daylight in that. It looked like she took it. I was completely shocked. In my mind, I was applauding Roxy. I was applauding them both. It is my understanding that some veterans have worked with them. And if that is the case, I applaud the veterans that have given them their time and effort to help them improve. And I also applaud Genesis and Roxy for listening, because there's some times where some wrestlers do not want to listen, or people that are just outside of it and they don't care. So that's worth applauding. Bravo to them both. Genesis gets a promo after the match, and good that she gets these promo times, and she does, I don't want to say a standard thing, but essentially she gives credit to Roxy as being a tough competitor. But still I won, which is a trope that I was told, like, you don't want to down talk your opponent and make them sound terrible because then you haven't beaten anybody. Well, here she gave her credit, so she's beaten somebody. She still put herself over. And that's the selling point. That's the only real selling point out of this promo. There's other stuff said, but the sell here was that Genesis put herself over. She does bring up that she wants a title match. And then McClain's like, well, she needs to be patient. Even though I was like, I don't understand why she's like, what does she need to be patient for? How? Why? Other people just asked for it and got it. This put me in mind of where Jessie Jones was with WoW like a couple of years ago, where she was actively winning over and over and over again, but somehow she hadn't earned a title shot. She was undefeated, and she hadn't earned a title shot. Now Genesis is now occupying that spot, where despite having a winning streak, even though she's a heel, she has to be patient, and you'll earn a title shot when you earn a title, and that is something, the earning of the title shot, we'll talk about in a little bit. But for whatever reason, she can't get the title match, and that was the spot that Jessie Jones previously occupied. Now Genesis is in that spot. Now, keep in mind that when Jones was in there, it probably took her like 5 or 6 years to get a title match. So I don't know if Genesis got that kind of time. But whatever. If you want to hang on in there, then be my guest. The questions that I wrote here is, where is this going? As I stated earlier, as much as I have grown to appreciate Genesis, and I still think that if you're going to do media, you need to have 1 or 2, if not more, matches in your head, because somebody's going to ask you that question again. What match inspired you? Don't sit there like you just every thought in your head dropped out and like, there's so many. Have 1 or 2 ready to go. But anyhow, I don't know where this is going, because it just feels like it's just running on the treadmill. A lot of energy spent, but not a lot of ground being gained. That's what this feels like. The next segment on the program is the segment that left me with a little bit of, where's the logic here? Now, before I start, let me just go ahead and say there's technically nothing wrong. Technically, nothing wrong with the segment. But I'm sure you will understand my issues with it as we proceed. Now, keep in mind, we're just coming off of Genesis in the previous segment, which who I said is now basically in the old role that Jesse Jones occupied. The heel that is one, but for whatever reason, well, you need to be patient, right? The very next thing we see is Santana Garrett. She comes out the ringside, and she, looking happy and smiling and all that good stuff. And before I even address the segment, I think I feel the need to just mention this, and this is not at all, surprisingly enough, not at all centered to or focused on WoW specifically. Okay? This is on Santana Garrett. Now, I like Santana Garrett. And I think that she's very good. Lovely young lady. Performs well in the ring. Has a name that has traveled across the independents and the wrestling circuits and so on and so forth. She's one of the names that they have there, and I would say that they're lucky to have her. That said, I have not seen Santana Garrett across the televised promotions that I've seen her in. Either get the opportunity or through her own measure relate her personality, who she is, why she's there, whatever the case may be. It just, I don't recall any of it. Like nothing stands out in my memory as far as, oh, okay, this is the reason I root for Santana. Beyond the fact that she's a good wrestler. Now, there's nothing wrong with just being a good wrestler. But that usually means that you have to find a promotion that will coincide with what you do. Which is one of the reasons that I'm really hurt that Ring of Honor no longer exists in the means that it did. Because that was a promotion, using that as an example, that was a promotion where you could sell yourself as a wrestler. And yeah, it helped if you was able to do a good promo, but the fans were conditioned that the match was the thing. It was better if you could talk them into the building. It was better if you could do a good promo. It was better that they understood who you were. All of those things were great. But they had a championship that was pretty much dependent on the fact that you're a wrestler, the pure wrestling championship. And they built the psychology around that place to where the wrestling mattered. That's a place that she, I think, would do far better in, where it's not necessarily built off of your verbiage. And maybe she has it in her, and maybe she just hasn't had the opportunity. I don't know. But it's nothing that I can recall that has ever had her stand out as that kind of personality. And I specifically said, WoW isn't responsible for that because, I've seen that across multiple platforms. Now, having said that, do I think that WoW is going to be a good place for her to just suddenly break out and start being this fireball personality? No, I don't. Almost every babyface in WoW is bland. Almost all of them. The only one that basically the exception to the rule is Jesse Jones. And that's largely because she walked in as a heel. And nothing has really changed with her as a heel. She just has readdressed who her aggression is towards and, kind of minimized the cheating and everything. But aside from that, no. I mean, she is probably the exception to the rule. Every other babyface in WoW is bland. So I do not expect this to be the place where, wow, we never saw this side of Santana Garrett before. Holy crap. You know, I don't expect that to take place. Now, getting back to the segment. I said all of that to say this. She comes out the ringside. She gets the microphone. Dave McClain, of course, is talking. What is she doing out here, Dave and Nigel? And she's looking for a microphone. Blah, 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 blah. And she gets the mic, and she proceeds to give the wild babyface promo of that more or less I've earned a title shot. Something to the effect of a couple of weeks ago, Paola and Abilene Maverick came out here demanding for the title shot. I quote, you said a title shot isn't given, it's earned. And then, of course, Dave McClain has said on side, yes, I did say that. I'm glad somebody listened. So now she's asking for one, which I like, that completely goes against everything you just said. A title shot isn't given, it's earned, so give me a title shot. Like, what? I was like, what was the logic of that? Did not anybody think that through? So she, after saying, you don't give them, you earn it, she doesn't earn one, she's just giving it. Now, the logic that they try to present here after she says this is McClain responds with, well, everyone remembers that the last time he was in the Classmaster, if he was on the ropes, I don't know why he had to repeat it 3 times, but he did. And given that you've earned this title shot, I was like, well, like, how is that earning a title shot? First off, it was that pressing an issue that she lost because her feet were on the rope, her being the Classmaster. Then why didn't she get a title shot like 2 or 3 months ago? That match that he's talking about was in November. And now I'm sure somebody's going to be like, well, you know, they tape it all at the same time. Whose fucking fault is that? They chose the taping schedule that they're on. And so as far as we, the viewers, are concerned, that was months ago. That was in November. We're in March. As we're recording this podcast right now, we're in March. So it couldn't have been that pressing of an issue that like, oh, man, you got cheated. Let me make sure you get a title rematch or get a match against her of any sort for that matter. Because I don't even remember the Classmaster was the champion at that point, which goes to the next thing. Why would I remember this? That was like 12 weeks ago. Why would I remember this? Why would this be a case of, well, everyone remembers? No, I don't. That's not like it's been talked about. It's not like Santana Garrett said, I'm going to get even. It's not like she made a big fuss about it. It's not like they showed any video clips of it. It's not like they recapped it. It's not like she said, I'm going after the championship and I'm going to overcome this hurdle and you won't be able to use your feet again. There has been little to no reminder, and I'm going to lean strongly towards no, that I would remember this at all. And it's not like it was some sort of hallmark match. Like, wow, this is one for the books. I need to keep this in my mind and remember it. It was just another match on another day of WoW that meant nothing. I don't even think it was for a title. I don't believe that Classmaster won the championship yet. So why would I remember this? Why would any person watching this show remember that? Never mind the fact that this whole earning a title shot, I would have less of an issue with that narrative if statements like this weren't thrown around. Because the fact of the matter is, there are plenty of wrestling promotions, televised and otherwise, that just have title matches that are just given out. So it's not always a case of win-loss record or whatever the case may be, and I don't have any problem with that because everybody does it. But when you're on TV and you're going around like, well, you know, the title shots aren't given, they have to be earned. And then the previous segment, you got somebody who's got a immaculate win-loss record right now, and they're pretty much begging for a title shot. It's so close together that I was like, I can't ignore this. It's literally one segment apart, a commercial, 2 minutes. To make me like, wait a minute, didn't the last person just say they needed a title shot and they got a better win-loss record? They should have earned it by now. And let's go through, because there was somebody on Wow's own page who made a great observation. He responded to somebody. Blind Monkey 1743 is his handle, or hers. I could be, could be wrong. Basically, it said Santana doesn't have a winning streak, and she was given a title match. She won 2 of her last 5 matches. And I hadn't really thought about it. Now, I knew she didn't have a stellar winning streak of any sort, but I hadn't put numbers to it. And so I said, let me take a look here. Let's look at her previous matches. Let's go all the way back to November, because November is listed as the beginning of their season, at least as far as Wikipedia is concerned. And then I addressed my personal notes. So Santana Garrett's record at this point reads as such. She lost to the Classmaster. She lost to Penelope Pink. She lost to the Classmaster again. She won against Fury. She lost against Paola Mayfield, or Paola the GOAT. And then she won against Paola Mayfield, and I guess I earned this. So I'm going to do him one better and say that she's won twice out of 6. Meanwhile, Genesis defeats Foxy Fierce. Genesis defeats Brittany Bay. Genesis defeats Ashley Blaze. Genesis defeats Tormenta. Genesis defeats Xena Phoenix. Genesis defeats Roxy Fierce. But she hadn't earned it. And he's going to sit on commentary and say that. Well, you just have to be patient. You have to earn it. And I cannot say it enough. There are times when he does this stuff where he just becomes an unwitting detriment to that show. And I know he'll never accept that. And I know anybody around him won't be able to tell him that. And no one else is in a position to be able to tell him. So you're just stuck with this. But there's times like this when he becomes an unwitting detriment to the show, because your commentators have to be trusted. Unless you're going to be a heel commentator, which he can never decide which one he wants to be. The commentators are the salesmen to some degree of what the product is. And then you have him in one segment doing this and then basically flipping around the opposite direction in the next breath. No, Genesis, you got to be patient. You need to wait. If you just win a few more of these, then you might get a title shot. And we've seen how that worked out. What was that? Jesse Jones went undefeated for maybe like 2 or 3 years, if not more. And then the one time it's like, well, if you win this match, then you'll get an opportunity to go after the title. The one time, then she loses. Meanwhile, Santana Garrett was like, no, not giving out his earned, is giving a title shot. So I didn't like this segment. It was a pointless segment. I was talking to somebody about that, and that person agreed. This segment had served no purpose. Pointless. I think if she had done something that we could follow the journey of Santana Garrett and see her actually get to the point where she earned it and then have that statement in the ring without having to address David McLean. Like, what would have been wrong with her competing in some match where she actually won and earned a shot? Top 4 contenders for the title to determine who's going to be the number 1 contender in the elimination 4 corners match or something. I don't know. She overcomes all of that. She beats 3 other people, and then she can come out the next week. Yes, I earned this. And I'm going to go after the championship, and I'm going to win. You know, that's like, that might give you some reason to buy into the journey of Santana Garrett, the drive, and her wanting / hopefully accomplishing a championship win. But of course that didn't happen. And this is every reason that I talked about all that stuff in the news and views earlier. When I brought up Vakur and Julia, I was like, you know, that there's drive there. And they didn't have any sort of massive build or promo battles against each other, nothing like that. I mean, that thing was pretty much thrown together. But, and I can admit that, it was a thrown together match, and we all found out why, because I think Julia has some visa issues and all that stuff. But the point being is that they were able to get that match and get some of them excited just based on the star power that they got. Do you think that people are going to be excited about the star power? All due respect to Santana Garrett and the Classmaster for a title that most people don't even recognize. Probably not. Then you got the promo segment. This promo is bland. There's no heart there. And the one person that's trying to give some level of excitement and fire to it is the person that shouldn't be doing it. It's David McLean, which is a running theme. Then, you know, the comparison that I used earlier is the Naomi Belair segment. Melodramatic, overly done, whatever you want to call it. At least they got airtime and they tried. And people watched. Like I said, it reached over 1 million views on individual channels. There was some level of interest as to who, what, why, how. This did not give any of that. It's just his title shot. And I'm sure internally they're expecting people to be interested and excited to see it. And Santana Garrett's fans probably will tune in. But it ain't enough. It's moments like that that show how second rate that WoW can be. And I say can be because it's not like they don't have the means to do more. They do have the means to do more. They just don't. Now, some of that has to do with timing, you know, the taping schedules and stuff like that, injuries. But honestly, I have very little sympathy for the hurdles that they have to jump, because most of those hurdles feel like they were self-inflicted. Like if they were running track, one of their members of their own team went down on the track and just put one hurdle after another, after another, after another, just out there just for the sake of doing it. Because why not? But no, this segment, although okay, did not help anything. It didn't really help sell the issue of, I can't even say issue, but I'll use that term anyway. It didn't really help sell the issue of Santana Garrett and the Classmaster. And like I said, I have a hard time saying that because that was months ago. It didn't really sell the drive or the want for Garrett to be the champion. It just is. That's all I got from this. It's just a segment to fill the time. Another one of those. And we have to sell next week's show somehow, so here you go. Moving on out of that, the next segment was Big Rigs and Bourbon in the locker room promoing the main event, and Jones puts over that Big Rig basically cannot hesitate with her daughter because Swag won't hesitate with her. And it starts off with Betty like, I'm more having some level of conflict, in so many words, facing off against her child. And that's when Jones says what I just brought up. She can't hesitate. And and in so many words, pretty much question her parenting skills. Like, well, if you had did this when she was a kid, you wouldn't be having to do it now. I mean, that's like a low-key insult, but, but in fairness to the situation that they had, there's like Big Rig Betty pretty much kind of silently agreed on camera, like, well, that type of thing. So, it might be a low-key jab, but it didn't mean it wasn't true in their universe. So I was like, all right, that's fine. And that goes back to what I said before. If there's any baby face that's there that doesn't fall into the bland category and has a personality, it's Jesse Jones. Jesse Jones is the exception to the wild rule. The segment following that, or the tie-in, is the representatives of the Fab Four, Lana Star, Penelope, Pink, HollySwag, all entering into the wild hallway. And Pink still doesn't look like she's overly friendly with Swag and basically calls this her family drama. And looks like she wants to leave, and then Swag pretty much stops her, like insisting, you can't leave me out there with my mama and this, that, and the other. So Swag is putting over that she doesn't want to necessarily face off against her mom. I mean, she's selling scared in this instance. Then we get a social media spot for a while. I guess good on them. Then we get another segment, which is promoing the next week's main event, which we just talked about, Santana Garrett facing off against the Classmaster. And I am sorry, but the Classmaster looks as stupid as ever when she's on this screen making faces and looking silly. Now, I'm not talking about her as a person. I've never met her. But let's look at it from the standpoint of the show and this business. She is their champion. And I don't care what David McClain has instilled in people that's working there. That, well, or the people that ask the softball questions when they go somewhere like, well, we're the only all-women's wrestling promotion in the world, and if you watch us, you'll be captivated by the stories. And it was like, all of which, much like I would have did in that previous segment I'm calling BS on. As the champion, theoretically, you should be one of the biggest draws that company has. In theory. Now, that might not be the case, but you should be, in theory, one of the biggest draws or reason that people would want to tune into the show as they can. Doing that in close-up on the screen, is not going to encourage most people to tune into that show beyond going in to tune in to laugh at it. It's not like she could not be presented in a different demeanor. Now, I know that because I've seen it. That's why I say I'm not talking about her as a person. I'm talking about the Classmaster, the persona, and how it's portrayed. And I don't understand it, really. I do not, because I've seen her work as Lois Grain, and I've seen her work as a Classmaster. And it's like this amazing dichotomy. Because, yeah, she's worked as Lois Grain and she's still talked about as being tall and this, that, and the other. But she didn't work big and she doesn't work dominant. She works like everybody else when she's being Lois Grain. In fact, her whole image is, at least from the times that I've seen, more colorful. Like if you were to tell me right now that she was going to be tagging up with Delilah Doom, a.k.a. Gloria Glitter, as her tag partner, I wouldn't have any doubts to that whatsoever. Because that's what she looks like. She looks like a tall aerobic instructor with tassels on and a headband in neon colors. And the only thing that she's missing is like leg warmers. When she works as Lois Grain, that's how she presents. When she works as the Classmaster in the ring, at least at this point, she works dominant. She is a silly character beyond the bell. Like when the bell rings, she becomes dominant. Before and after that, she's silly and goofy. Meanwhile, Lois Grain seems to be more driven and focused. So I don't know. I was like, who is telling her to do this? Who's telling her to stand there? All right, and make these faces. Yeah, that's good. She should be at least trying to sell the importance of the title, why it means what it does, why I won't lose it. You know, not be this over-the-top cartoon character. There are too many other options available. I've already said it. WoW does not exist in a bubble anymore. You can find competent women's wrestling at any given point. Pop on YouTube, type in women's wrestling, there it is. And you're not talking about women's wrestling from 20 or 30 years ago. You're talking about women's wrestling that happened yesterday. It's not like they couldn't do something with her. They can. Or they could have. I mean, this is all in the can. They could do something with her if they felt like, if they tried. It just feels like they don't try. It feels like they put very little effort into trying to make this a competitive project. Or promote, well, I'm not going to call it a promotion, program. But no, she's just making the faces at the screen and all that stuff. I was like, meanwhile, her 6'1" manager standing in the background with a championship belt slung over her shoulder. Which I am now convinced at this point, like, look, she probably is a very smart young lady in real life and she was very sweet and all that stuff like that. I just don't know if wrestling IQ wise is there. Either that or somebody's convinced her that none of that other stuff is important. Like for the life of me, the idea that this 6 foot tall manager standing next to the only selling point that her champion has is that she's tall makes sense to everybody. I just, why that is just overlooked to me, I don't know. And I know they brought it up once. And they try to pass it off like, well, it's a narcissist thing. She's got to wear the heels, so which I'm gonna go ahead and take credit for that too. Like they probably would have never brought it up if somebody hadn't complained about it. So it might as well be me. So no, I mean, I'm sure I will watch the match because I will be at work to see it. But I have no drive or desire to see this match under any metric that I should want to see this match. I don't care who wins the championship because the title doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care that it's the Classmaster defending it because I don't find the persona of the Classmaster entertaining. I just find it silly. And unfortunately, I really don't care that Santana Garrett is getting a shot because she's giving me no reason to care about it. She She hasn't talked me into the verbal building, so to speak. And I don't want to hear David McClain being the one to do it. And I spent far too long talking about that promo. Anyway, moving on. The next segment is the main event. Penelope Pink and HollySwag with Lana Starr and her one managerial spot for the night because apparently she is unable to appear more than once now. I guess her managerial card has been filled up. And they will be taking on Big Rigs and Bourbon, even though Big Rigs and Bourbon isn't referred to as such on the show. Now, here's where I reinforce a point that I brought up many, many, many times, that you're going to get people that's going to watch the show solely based on the fact that it's women in tights. Now, is it fair? No, it's not. But the facts are the facts. Right? You are going to get some people that's going to watch this solely based on it being women in tights. Now, I'm sure somebody's asking, well, why are you bringing that up now? The reason I bring that up now is on their YouTube page, one of the highest rated or viewed, one of the highest viewed matches that they've had is that match. This tag match that I'm talking about right now is one of the highest viewed matches on their page thus far. I've tried scrolling down, I'd say about 3 months or so. So that, I mean, there very well could be one that exceeds it. But within the last month, for a single match, we're not talking about, one of their full-on programs, and full program is stretching it. But for a single match, it's one of the highest viewed that they've got. That has very little, if nothing, to do with the match whatsoever. And I'm sure somebody like, what do you mean? Why would you say that? It had everything to do with the match. The thumbnail that they have on there is Big Rig Betty spanking her daughter. And miraculously, that match has 28,000 views. Uh-huh. Now, that could just be coincidental. Maybe it is some people that watched it just because it was the match on its own. Maybe that thumbnail has nothing to do with it. But I just find it odd that on the average, they usually do about 2 to 3. If it's what they consider a full episode, which is never a full episode, by the way, and I don't understand why they don't include the segments on there. It just seems counterproductive in my eyes. Like, just put on the whole show. Unless you're being held to not being able to do it in some sort of legality or whatnot, just put on the whole show. What's it hurting you? But anyway, back to the point. Unless outside of the full episodes, the ones that go 20 to 30 minutes or so, most of these things do not exceed like 5,000 views or something, just generally speaking. Not bad, but, just not that high. This one thing got 28,000, and I'm sure it had everything to do with that thumbnail. Somebody could debate it. Somebody could say, oh, well, no, that ain't true. But if you think it ain't perverts that sit up there watching WoW for all the wrong reasons, you are mistaken. I can say that firsthand, having had a women's wrestling YouTube channel. I've seen the comments. Usually I just go ahead and wipe them out when they get too off the rails. But yeah, that's it, man. So anyhow, we start off with Swag and Pink coming out the ringside and Swag swinging her rock around. Now, under normal circumstances, because she's done the same thing in OVW, she's, that seems to be her weapon of choice. It's like her personal 2x4, like the Hacksaw Jim Duggan used to walk out with. But in OVW, she used it when, as a babyface at least, she cheated when being cheated upon, or at least something to that degree. Here, because the guy that is firing and hiring and punishing people, fining people or whatever, is right there at ringside, the idea that she walks out swinging a weapon that full well that she will use at any given time, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, and I realize it's her gimmick and she wants to have it and she, probably needs to use it or whatever the case may be. But it just devalues the entire system of this wrestling show. That's why I say I'm very hesitant to say promotion, because it don't feel like no wrestling promotion oftentimes. David McClain can sit there actively telling people, oh, she's got the rock in the sock. She might knock somebody out today. I was like, why are you excited about this? So they come out and Pink and Swag are still having issues with each other and, don't really seem like they get along, which only furthers my question to why Lana Starr would pick these two over the cohesive unit of four-time former champions Miami Sweet Heat. Now, I don't necessarily want Miami Sweet Heat to, have some fifth reign, right now. And if they get one later, maybe that's fine. But it doesn't make any sense to me. They've not done anything that would make me believe that, this was the smart choice. And when they're in the ring, HollySwag is just completely obnoxious. He's standing in front of them, and taking up spotlight space and all that stuff. But somehow, Lana Starr is like completely fine with this. When several months ago, when she was just a dumb hick, they didn't have any time for it at all. Other than bring me my food or whatever. So I don't know. And I don't know why Lana Starr is completely incapable of managing both teams, but we'll move on. So Big Rigs and Bourbon comes on out there, and McClain says Swag is taking Wild's warning serious. I was like, is she? What warning is that being? Why would she take it serious when they have already shown that there is no authority in WoW beyond if you cross David McClain personally? Why would she be taking any warning seriously? Why would any heel there take any warning seriously? Because the only ones that have ever felt the brunt of it is the Alliance, for the reasons that I just mentioned. You lied to me, so you're banned. Meanwhile, people getting hit in the head with a rock in the temple, getting knocked out, no punishment. Pulling the tights, no punishment. Feeling the ropes, no punishment. Just ignoring the fine, no punishment. I told you were banned, still come out here, no punishment. It's like the biggest crime that you could commit as a heel on that show is crossing David McClain. Oh, my goodness. So we start off and the issues between the heels continue as Swag and Pink debates over who's starting the match. And it ends up that Penelope Pink pretty much just shoves Swag into the middle of the ring. As she's trying to get out, she being HollySwag, Pink just grabs her head and just shoves her back in there. And Swag is like, you mother, that type of look. Which, again, I was like, okay, well, why would Lana Star pick these two when they clearly don't get along? I mean, it's not like it's a secret. They're doing it right in front of your face. And what was the smartest manager in a while now looks like she is completely inept or completely oblivious to this thing that is unfolding in front of her face. So Swag ducks underneath as she moves around with Jesse Jones because Jesse's starting for the baby faces. And Swag ducks underneath and tags in to Penelope Pink. So despite the fact that legally Swag is the starter, Pink is the one that actually is going to begin the match, physically speaking. So they lock up. Pink and Jones. Now, I don't think there's any need to go through the entirety of the play-by-play here and all this stuff. I will say that, the participants here, I had the utmost faith in. Jones, Pink, Big Rig, and Swag. And I did not have any doubt that they would be able to pull a decent match off. So none of that stuff was really overly concerning. The things that were going on during the match, however, were somewhat fascinating. One of which, as this is going on, McLean felt like he was trying to string multiple angles together. Now, for what reason, I don't know. I guess you could argue that they, have some place there, but it felt like to me that he had to just get in everything that they were possibly doing. HollySwag could possibly be a Trojan horse. Now, they talked about that from the moment she got in it, and I haven't seen anything that would lead anyone to believe that. Lana abandoning the twins, even though that storyline was it's not complete, but it also was not ever clarified in that day. Like, she's banned from this, but yet somehow she abandoned the tag team of Miami Sweet Heat. And then there's, Pink not liking Swag, which is taking place right in front of her face. But like I said, somehow Lana Star seems oblivious to that and or maybe not care. But it does work against the narrative that she's been the best manager there. So now she just kind of comes off like, well, this was a stupid decision. And then McLean brings up Levi. I was like, God damn, we haven't had to hear that child's name in some months. Why? And Jesse Jones sent something to Levi. I was like, really? Like, why are we bringing this up when that was pretty much the crux of her and Americana falling out to begin with? Her and her undying, unwavering love for her child, which should be, but it's like she couldn't even focus and concentrate on the match because she was so busy like throwing hearts to her child at ringside. Like, oh, I love you. Even though I'm right in the middle of this match, let me give you a heart sign while I'm in the most vulnerable position possible. And all of this was brought up. All of that was brought up just because, I guess. So, we got a couple exchanges. We got Pink in, then Swag gets in. She gets beat up, and the big sell here is that we finally get the tag to the mom. And Big Rig comes in, and she gets set up for the old spank spot that I just talked about in the thumbnail that I'm sure somebody was repeating this one scene probably one time too many. Drop toe hold right over the knee of Big Rig Betty, and she gives her child a spanking, and then Swag sits in the on the mat for a little while and pouts for a tad. And then she spits in the face of her mother and gives her a big slap. And this began the point where Dave McClain seemed like he was fixating on them getting spit in the face. As he brought it up like several times. Oh, she got spit in the face. I bet that's never happened to her before. I bet she's been spit in the face before. She got spit in the face. There's more spit. Like, is it that important to highlight? I get the first time because it was a matter of disrespect, but then it's just like he just fixated on it. You know, like, hey, well, you know, just spit in the face. So, I was like, talking about somebody not liking it. Well, who would like it? Hey, boy. So they're working over on Big Rig Betty. After this incident, you know, that's when the heat gets turned up on her, and you know they're actually working as a unit at this point with Pink and Swag. Then they get the old photo op deal going on there. I still think there should just be one team that's doing this, but you know, I guess it's too late for that. And this is also a point that I really love Jesse Jones as the kind of rebel hero or anti-hero, whichever one you prefer. As they're doing this, she does not sit back there like it's dumbfounded like every other person would be on the roster. She actually ran over there and did something about it. Charges in, nails Penelope Pink, and knocks her to the floor. Again, great. Also good is that the heels didn't necessarily get dumbfounded either. They went right to work on Big Rig Betty, despite the fact that Pink got put down to the floor. And you got Swag, who's, you know, beating up on her mom. In the Wild Universe, this is the first. Elsewhere, this is probably, I don't know, the 10th or 20th time. Who knows? They've done this across multiple promotions, as mentioned before. So, this continues on. Somewhere along the line, McClain implies that Wild's main event could actually run out of time. I was like, that was like the fourth time I wrote BS on my notes. So like, I'm calling BS on that because you know goddamn well you're not gonna run out of time on this match. WoW has existed in some form or another for the last 5 or 6 years. If we remove the hiatus from 2000, and they've never had an incident with like, we're running out of time, fans. We'll go to our website and see what happens. They have never had that happen. So I'm pretty sure that is not going to take place suddenly now. And you get the Penelope Pink German suplex slide spot, which looks good. Looks better in a tag match because at least here her partner could help facilitate the move. They set Big Rig Betty up on the second rope. Swag holds the angle. She slides through, she being Pink, and she catches her and gives that kind of leverage suplex to the mat. Swag is proud of herself. It's like, hey, she's going for high fives, and Pink's like, get over there. So they still are not, you know, completely tied up on the same page. Side note, I realized that one of the things that kind of, I don't want to say I dislike about it, but I was trying to figure out what it is that McClain does in his commentary that doesn't sit right with me. And I will say, look, you know, it's all personal preference, but I'm just talking about in my eyes. Okay. And I understand because commentating is not as easy as it's portrayed to be. And I can fully admit that. Having said that, though, he strikes me like more of a hyperactive fan that got the chance to sit behind a microphone rather than a commentator. He's standing up, he's hollering and screaming, he's fixating on stuff, he's talking through promos while they're trying to be in the ring doing stuff. he just comes off like somebody who just got the job. Like, hey guys, I'm happy to be here. That's right. She did do that. Just like a hyperactive fan that just got the gig. So anyhow, Betty is able to get up at some point and get the good old hot tag. She's able to evade Penelope Pink, who tried to take her in the corner and give her a punch in the, well, I guess probably several punches in the head, but she never got that chance because Rig got free of it, and she is able to give her a ripcord clothesline to set Penelope Pink down and give herself the break. And hopefully, desperately try to get over to her corner and her partner, which she does. And Jones gets in as Swag comes in, and they start teeing off. Well, Jones pretty much starts teeing off on her. Kicking the gut, punching the mouth, all that good stuff. So, Jones at some point gets Swag hooked up in a submission hold that Pink has to come in and save her from. This gets all four people in the ring. By the way, at least this referee here looked like he was trying to do something. He did walk over there. He's yelling at him. He's like, hey, get out of the way, move. He's counting. He's not just standing around waving his arms. So I appreciated that. It was a stark contrast to what we had earlier. So we got all four of them, and the baby faces pretty much send Pink and Swag into the corner. They looked like they was about to go head to head with each other, but they stopped themselves. But then the baby faces come up behind them and get ready to do a backslide. And they're fighting not to go down in the backslide. And lo and behold, here come Miami Sweet Heat out the ringside to save the day. Because they actually do get him down eventually. At least Jones got Swag down. Pink was still fighting not to go down. And so they come in and they just start beating up on the Big Rigs and Bourbon. Lana's facial expressions out there seem as if she's not really sure why they're there. For the brief time that I did catch her. Now, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but she's got a hand. Well, she had her hands up at one point. It's like, huh, what's going? That kind of like that. Now, that might not be anything that they're doing, because as that happens, then they all four get on the same page. And you got all four Fab Four members beating up on the two members of Big Rigs and Bourbon. Then we got the other baby faces of Princess Aussie and Tormenta running out the ringside to save the day. And then here come the referees to kind of try to break that up. The winners were Big Rigs and Bourbon, even though, like I said, they never refer to them as that. And they get this by disqualification because of the interference of Miami Sweet Heat. I felt like, all right, well, this does open up something for them. One or two things. The aftermath of this could lead to a 4-way title match. All four teams are in the same match, going for the championships, and we could get the win off of, Aussie and Tormenta or Pink and Swag. That is one scenario. The other scenario would be an 8-woman. Where's the Fab Four taking on Aussie, Tormenta, and Big Rigs and Bourbon. Or you might get a combination of the two. Those would seem to be the natural course for what they're doing. That would seem to be that. Now, whether they do that or not is a different issue, but it could head in that direction. Which I wouldn't, be mad about or, wouldn't have any real issue with. It goes back to what I talked about with Miami Sweet Heat at the beginning. to have them slowly morph into being baby faces could dictate where the story or the angle goes. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, because like I said, I have very little faith in wild storytelling. And it's not because I don't want to have faith in them, it's because that's what they've kind of conditioned me for. They've just conditioned me into believing that whatever angle that they're doing is going to take a left turn off a cliff somewhere and to nonsensical land. But, time will tell. Either one of those I could live with. I could live with the 8-woman tag. I could live with a combination of them both. I just hope, fingers crossed, that it makes some kind of sense. Some kind of sense to, where like, okay, I can see this getting better. But again, they've conditioned me to believe that ain't happening. So here we go again. Surprised, I wrote down, surprisingly, Penelope Pink and HollySwag did not win the titles, and I put in parentheses yet. And I also wrote down what I just told you, that this could lead to a 4-way war, something along those lines. Now I forgot to mention that I don't know how McClain gets this. Sometimes he'll just pop in like the wrong word or something. Like last week, it was like, hey, how do you feel about revenging your friend? I was like, don't you mean avenge? But I don't know. Here it was Americana took an absence of leave. I'm like, no, I think you meant leave of absence. And I don't mean to be picking on that man. I was like, and I'm not trying to, but it's just moments like that. I was like, come on. Anyhow, that was the show. And I honestly did not dislike most of it, but it just also was not like I have to see what's coming up. I need to know what's happening following this. I didn't get that feeling either. Like the Miami Sweet Heat, the Aussie Tormenta match, that I don't know what Aussie and Tormenta's issue is there. I mean, yeah, they're coming out to save their friends, and on that regard, I can understand it. But their deal with Miami Sweet Heat is more or less, it could be considered a done deal. Other than we need a tiebreaker. Sweet Heat beat them clean. Just like Aussie and Tormenta beat them clean the week prior or wherever it was. Gianni, I was surprised she got a win. That's how badly she's been booked. Genesis, I was not surprised, but I was surprised about the efforts between the two of them, Genesis and Roxxy. And the construction of that match, by the way. That it stuck to logic. The Santana Garrett thing, I could have really did without. Like her, but the less asking for stuff off of McClain, in my view, for this show, the better. The promos between the two teams, or the backstage interactions, probably be more accurate. I like those. Main event is fine. Ended in a cluster, but for whatever reason, that cluster did not excite me to see what was coming up. And it did not give me that still. So there we have it. Wow. In its full review. And if I were voting for this myself, I would vote that as a meh. Not really bad, but also not overall good. It just was a okay show that didn't really give me any sort of drive to tune in next week if I were not already going to be at a place that was showing it. So, speaking of next week, I think we need to see what they have sent this week for the next episode's preview. So, time to read this press release. What is it that we have to look forward to in total? And our press release reads as follows. Santana Garrett secures the Wild World Championship match that she's rightfully earned in this week's main event when she faces the Classmaster, whose manager, Samantha Smart, is determined to make sure the era of IQ Superior continues. Paola, the Colombian GOAT, on the other hand, won't be getting a shot at the championship title. Her manager, Abilene Maverick, is not happy about that. Had she not been banned last week, it would be Paola in the main event title match instead. Paola will go toe-to-toe with Wild's newest superhero, Catalina Speed, who is backed by the ever-cunning Sofia Lopez, a.k.a. the world's greatest attorney. After a string of injuries inflicted by top-tier teammates Ashley Blaze and Kara Kai look to secure a win against Fury and Miranda Mirage, Scout Parker takes on Xena Phoenix in singles action, and Big Rig Betty enters the Wild Arena with a shocking challenge that you won't believe. Okay. Well, here's what I expect. I expect Santana Garrett to go 0-3 against the Classmaster. And this rightfully secured main event or championship match. Anyway, we won't go for that. I already talked about it. Paola against Catalina Speed with Sofia Lopez returning. Well, you know, you never know with them, especially with their debuts. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Colombian GOAT wins just because it's Catalina Speed's first time. And Sofia Lopez, sweetheart of a woman. But as a babyface manager, probably she's been defanged of anything that she can or would do. And I doubt that she's going to be sitting up there cutting promos for whoever this young lady is. So I don't know what the purpose behind that would be. The only other purpose that she could really serve is for Tormenta. You know, I don't know why she stopped going with her, because she would operate as a translator if nothing else. But no, I mean, I doubt that she's going to sit up there cheating, and I don't see her doing any other sort of interference. If anything, she'll probably be called out the ringside like, hey, come sit next to me and talk, Sofia Lopez. So she might not even be a factor in the match for all I know. Anyway, I don't even know why they brought up after a string of injuries inflicted by top tier. What string of injuries? They hurt one person, Ashley Blaze. So where's the string of injuries that they're talking about? And why was this brought up? Not Ashley Blaze, but Tara Strike. That's the only person that they hurt. And it's not relative to what they're doing. Ashley Blaze and Kara Kai look to secure a win against Fury and Miranda Mirage. And Dave McClain has already rebranded them the Dojo Defenders, so that's probably not a good thing for Tara Strike to begin with. And why do they have to be the Dojo Defenders? Anyhow. And Scout Parker taking on Xena Phoenix. I'm going to go with Phoenix, even though I'm sure whatever promo she gets to do after that will be, she gave it a good fight, and I'm happy, and I learned a lot, and please watch WoW. And that's it. That's the full review of this show. It has carried on for a long time. I'm kind of amazed that I went this long myself. So on that note, let's go ahead and finish this thing on up. You can catch me every week as the episodes drop then I am dropping episodes to review it. That will always be available on our YouTube page and on greater podcast platforms. If you cannot find it there, you can always go to WPNWrestling.com. That is WPNWrestling.com for all podcasts and videos, everything else that has gone on, produced, written, whatever. I need to get back to start writing some stuff. But all of that stuff goes there. It is a focal point, a nexus for everything that the Women's Pro Wrestling Network will create and or produce. And on that note, oh yeah, you gotta ask you, do the YouTube things, like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep this thing in circulation so I can continue looking at these episodes of WoW and picking it apart mercilessly. No, I don't mean to do that. I'm actually got my fingers crossed hoping for a good episode. I really do. And on that note, we will close it out by saying that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.